Okay, now the data sufficiency questions from 46 to 50. There are four marking options. It says mark A if the question can be answered using one of the statements alone, but cannot be answered by using the other statement alone. You need to mark B if the question can be answered by using either statement alone. Then we need to mark C if the question can be answered by using both the statements together but cannot be answered by using either statement alone. And we need to mark D if the question has data insufficiency. Okay, so the first marking, it tells us that there are two statements, first and second. If you can answer it using the first statement and not the second statement alone, or you can answer using only the second statement and the first statement doesn't give you any particular answer. While the second marking is if you can answer the question using either of these statements alone. So while doing questions of type B, once you have solved using the first statement, you need to forget about the first statement. Let's look at mark C option. You can answer the question using both the statements together. So it requires both the statements. And the D option is if from the first and second statement, you cannot answer even using both. Now, remember this, you can get to either the C marking or D marking only when the either of the first or second marking is not possible. So you cannot get A as the answer as well as C as the answer. Okay, so let's proceed to the next question. The question says, if a certain animated cartoon film consists of a total of 17,280 frames on a film, how many minutes will it take to run the cartoon film without interruptions? Now, the first statement. Okay, the major thing, the important thing to understand is this word interruptions. So once we have read this word, so the statement should talk about the word interruption. Okay, let's look at the first statement. So the first statement says the cartoon film runs without interruption at the rate of 24 frames per second. So we can calculate actually how much time it's going to take. So there are a total of 17,280 frames divided by 24 will give us the number of seconds. We will definitely get the answer. Is it required to calculate the answer? Not really. That's the best part about data sufficiency. You need not have to answer each and every question. Okay, so we can answer using the first statement alone. Let's look at the second statement now. Second statement says it takes 6 times as long as to run what it takes for the cartoon film to rewind the film, and it takes a total of 14 minutes to do the both. Now, if you are reading this particular statement, you will get to know that it takes 6 times as long as to run what it takes for the cartoon film to rewind the film. So we have 60 plus t. So this is to rewind, while this duration, this time, is to play or run as per the question. This is given as 14 minutes, sorry. Do you really think it's 14 minutes? That's it? In this particular statement, there is no statement that says that uses the word, that there is no part of this statement that uses the word interruption. So actually in second statement, we do not know how much time does it take to for the interruptions, as in whether we will encounter any interruption or whether we will not encounter any interruption. So that word is not used. That's why using the second statement we cannot answer it. Hence the right answer for this is going to be A option. So we need to mark A for this. Let's move over to the next question. This question talks about a particular geometry figure. So the vertices of a parallelogram ABCD lie on the circumference of a circle. Now, if you think about a parallelogram, A parallelogram is never cyclic in nature, as in a parallelogram will never come under a particular circle. So if a parallelogram comes under a circle, that parallelogram has to be either a rectangle or a square. Okay, the difference between rectangle and a square is, if we're talking about a square, it's a specific kind of rectangle with all the four sides equal. So every square can be treated as a rectangle, but not every rectangle is going to be a square. Okay. Now the next line says, if the radius of the circle is 1 centimeter, what is the ratio of length of AC to the length of AE? So the figure that is given to us, okay, just look at the point E. E looks to be, in between B and C. So is E the midpoint of B and C? We cannot say, because nothing of that sort is given in the question. Nothing is given in the question. So we cannot assume it. So let's look at the statements now. Now the first statement says the quadrilateral ABCD is a rhombus. Now ABCD is a rhombus. Now rhombus is also never cyclic in nature. So when a quadrilateral is a rhombus and it is inscribed in a circle, that certainly has to be a square. So if you're talking about a square getting inscribed in a circle, and E being a point, so we can actually know that the diagonal of the square and hence the side of the square, because this diagonal is also nothing but the diameter of the circle. So this will come out to be 2 centimeter, and hence we can know the sides. But can we know the length BE? Because in order to calculate AE, we are required to know the length of BE as well as AB, right? So we do not know where the point E is located, so we won't be able to calculate the length AE. E may be very close to B, or E may be very far away from B, as in it may be closer to C. So the first statement alone is not going to suffice us in solving the answer. Let's look at the second statement. Second statement says the ratio of length of BE to the length of AB is 1:2. Now while answering using the second statement, let's forget about the first statement. Now this second statement simply says the ratio of length of BE to length of AB is 1:2. So it means BE is half of AB. Okay. Now if we look at that, we may have a rectangle where E may be this point. This is B, this is C, this is A, this is D. And let's say if this is 2x, then this is going to be x. Right? So if this is 2x, this is x, do we know the length of EC? No, not really. So since the length of EC is not known, though we will be able to calculate the length AE, we won't be able to calculate the length AC because we do not know the length of EC. Okay, so using second statement also alone, we cannot answer it. Now let's club both of them together. If we know that ABCD is a square, whether if this is a square, if this is not now known to us, so finally we are going to have a circle with a square inscribed. The diameter is known to us, that means AC is known to us. And now E being the midpoint of BC, we will be able to calculate the length of AE. How? Because now this becomes 2x, this becomes x, and AC hence becomes √2 times the side, that is √2 times 2x. And we'll be able to calculate AE using the Pythagoras theorem. Do we need to actually calculate? Not really. We know the length of √2 2x, that is the diameter of the circle, which becomes the diagonal of the square. So using both these statements together, we will be able to answer the question. Hence, we need to mark the answer as C.